Holy fuck. Microsoft does it again. First they bought ZeniMax, Bethesda. Now they're buying Activision Blizzard and King, Candy Crush. Yeah, they're acquiring this for 68 point, I think, $7 billion. Holy shit. This is huge. Microsoft wants to be the company. They want to be the company where you come for everything. It's not a joke when they plan to buy up companies. They're doing it for the bigger, longer game. Oh yes, Sony right now, their consoles are outselling Microsoft. That's fine. Oh, they're selling out Xbox. Microsoft is calm. Sony turned its back on Japan. Microsoft wants in Japan. Okay, do you understand that? This acquisition is just going to make things... They're going to put everything on their Game Pass. They have their Xbox, part of the Game Pass. They have the PC, part of the Game Pass. And now they've also got the mobile. This company is basically... They're doing it all. Yeah, there's Valve, and literally, understand this. For people that think Valve's they're huge. If Microsoft wanted to buy Valve, they have the money to do it. Understand that. They could literally buy Valve if they wanted to, if they were serious about it, and offered the right amount of money, they could buy Valve. And just, but what they're doing is being smart about this. They're not trying, first it was Bethesda, now they're acquiring Activision Blizzard. This is massive. Because it just, it means they want to, they want it all. This is a big step for them. Yeah. Everybody's talking about this. Huge acquisition. And it's going to go through. Hell, Microsoft had it on theirs. Everybody. Look at this. Everybody's talking about this huge thing. What does it mean for gaming? For Nintendo, it's not going to change anything. I have a feeling what Microsoft's going to do is work out a relationship with Nintendo. Sony's going to have to pay more. Do I think they're not going to make games? They're going to stop, putting games on? No. I think what's going to happen is they're going to make Sony pay more to be able to get games. These game companies they're buying up are going to be able to go to Sony and charge more for Sony to put the game on there. Yeah. For their consumers. I don't think they're going to sit there and stop making games. Telling these games, don't make games for Sony, but you can charge more. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Sony's in real trouble. They don't have the money for people. Why don't they buy up this? Why don't they buy up that? Sony doesn't have the money. The PlayStation has been losing Sony money. Understand this. Go back to the PS3. PS3 was a complete mess for Sony. They have trouble turning a profit. They're losing money. Unlike Microsoft, who's a software developer, and now they have the Xbox. Sony, as a company, I'm talking just the PlayStation side of it, has been losing money for years. This whole thing, Microsoft has the money to buy these companies. Sony can't go and buy Konami. They don't have the money. Let's look at, okay, I'll give you an example. So they just suddenly, look at this. Sony is losing money on every PlayStation 5 it sells. Not a shocker. Sony's been losing money on the PlayStation for going back to the PS3. PS3, yeah, right here. Still losing money on the PlayStation 3. Right here. I'll show you. This is just to show you why Microsoft is winning the long haul game, this whole game console thing. They're winning. They've not lost money on any. No, they've been turned a profit. Sony's still losing money on every PlayStation 3 it sells because they lost when they put out the original PlayStation. Yeah, 3. See? $805 to build a PS3. It costs Sony a whopping $805 to build a PS3. We're talking not the original. That cost even more. But the newer, slimmed down version just cost them that much. Yeah. Sony has real problems turning a profit. And it goes back to this, the original PS3 they have lost so much money on that console. This slim version, they've not turned up, and to hear that, they're suddenly, yeah, see, right, like this, they have been, the PlayStation 5 may suddenly be turning a profit, but here's the thing, overall, the whole company has been losing money. So it's sad. Microsoft, on the other hand, hasn't really lost any money. And that's why Microsoft as a company is larger than Sony in a lot of ways. The Xbox is just a small part of Microsoft. As a company, this company can keep buying up these studios and not actually lose hardly anything. That's why they're offering so much for them. I mean, this is the sad state of affairs. Microsoft, over the long haul of this, is going to, Sony's going to, lose. And they are. But yeah, this is the huge thing. I mean, people been talking about that Sony was going to that Microsoft had an announcement about that they were going to buy a company. Nobody expected it to be Activion Blizzard. They thought it might be Capcom. It might be Konami. It could be, any other company out there. And there are so many that they could still buy. They could still get Capcom. They could still get Konami. They could get, now I'm trying to remember, the game company that used to, that actually competed against Nintendo back in the day. Oh, God. I'll just put that. Sega. They can still buy Sega. I can't believe I forgot Sega. Yeah, this company, Sega. They could buy Atari. If they wanted to, they could buy EA. This is the difference between Sony and Microsoft. Sony, the film side of it, they're still trying to, in a lot of ways, trying to recoup from when they got hacked. And they lost money on a lot of really bad films. But they have people that are watching their movies now that are turning it like the Spider-Man whatever, that normally is going to see. Same with the Venom, movies. They're starting to turn a profit, but for a long time, they were still losing money, even on the movie end, because of bad decisions. But, they understand the people, normies that go and see their movies. Microsoft is thinking long term. So what if if PlayStation's kicking their ass right, beating them in the console, in the long run, Microsoft's going to be the one to take Sony, to beat Sony. Because they're doing it on two fronts. Look at what's happened with Sony. They realized when they walked away from Japan, they have a problem now. They have to now put their games, make them available on PC. Because they're not making the profits just on the PlayStation end of it. They're not. See, Microsoft got ahead of all this and said, yeah, they created the Game Pass, which is their Xbox, their PC, and they even have for mobile. They were doing this before even, for Sony realized they needed to jump in this and get, start putting their games on PC. But yeah, Microsoft is winning. It's just, and Sony's a console. I wouldn't give them any money for it. The PS3 was terrible. PS4 was awful. They're just a terrible company. And in the end, Nintendo's kicking both of these two companies. They're kicking Sony and they're kicking Microsoft's. Yeah, the Xbox. The PlayStation and Xbox are both being beat by Nintendo. So yeah, Nintendo's winning the console war. But in the long run, it's Microsoft that's going to come out on top of all of this. Because they're thinking bigger. That's why Sony's suddenly freaking out and going, oh, we got to put our games on PC. And they don't have any Japanese developers making games because they walked away. Well, let's look at that. Whoops. Gotta hate when that happens. Let's see. There's not a single PS5, PS4 game in Japanese sales. Yeah. See, when Sony decided to move to America and basically turn its back on Japan, and this is where yeah. What happened was Sony, the company, decided we're going to move to America. We're going to be more. They started censoring their games, pissing off game developers. And then they said, oh, we're going to move our headquarters to America, and lying to the Japanese people. And this is why game developers basically said, we're done. Yeah. Microsoft, on the other hand, wants to get in Japan. I think they're making a game exclusively for Japan, to show the Japanese they want to be in that market. They're not stupid. But the thing is that Sony turned its back on Japan. But see, here's the thing, is that when Sony announced they were leaving Japan, they ran into a problem. And game developers are not happy with them. Let's look at this. This was in August. Yeah. Basically, the censorship, Sony started censoring the games And the game developers noticed this, and so they were like, you know. And then when they said, we're coming to America, we're moving our headquarters to America, it's like they turned their back on Japan. The developers said, okay, we're not making games for you. So, yeah. And Microsoft wants to get in there. That's why they're trying to push so hard to get in Japan. Do I think they're going to go in and buy some of these companies in Japan? Absolutely. Or at least they're going to make an offer to buy them. And who wouldn't want to sell to Microsoft? You can still make what you want. You're going to make money because you're with a big publisher like Microsoft. And they'll be completely 100% behind you. This was a mistake that BioWare and Bungie made. They left. Bungie's completely collapsed after they abandoned, and left Microsoft. They had, it's funny, when they came under Microsoft, look what happened. They were doing fine. They were doing D&D games, and they were making, games for the Xbox. But then they turned around and said, hey, we want to leave and try to make more money. What happened? They've gone downhill because they let themselves get bought by EA. Stupid move. Every one of their games since they left have not been good. And it's been and they're basically, the two original creators quit the company. And now you have basically a company that doesn't really exist anymore. It's dead because they let all these lefty idiots in who ruined the company. Listen to Nita Sarkeesian. They've ruined themselves. They went completely fucking woke, and now they're out of business practically. And then, of course, it's just... And then Bungie, what did they put out? They put out terrible games. They wanted, instead of sticking with Sony, with Microsoft, and working on, Halo, they basically decided to go, we're going to make a game that's Halo with a hood. And both those games are terrible. Yeah, Sony will not. They're losing. They're going to lose in the long run. This whole thing to Microsoft because of what Microsoft's doing, and you can take that to the bank. Sony abandoned Japan, and Japan said, "Okay, fine. We're not making games for you anymore. You censor our games. We're done with you. You want to go with censorship? Happy? We're not making games for you." And nobody in Japan's buying the PlayStation anymore. They went, ooh, let's go west. And they fucked themselves right in the ass out of Japan. So, congratulations, Sony. You're still losing money on your Xbox, on your PlayStation 3s. Congratulations on being total idiots. So, yeah, I just want to make this video about how, I know it went a little off. But yeah, this is huge that, Microsoft basically is buying Activision Blizzard. It is. It's massive. I mean, this says everything. Look at this. They're going to own all, this is going to be, theirs. Diablo, Call of Duty, Warcraft, Candy Crush, StarCraft, Overwatch again. I mean, this is huge. Yeah, I just want to do that. Yeah, they're trying to take over the world, and they could do it. Well, have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.